There was something about free speech. Before the internet, which is sort of a very, very expanded version of public access, it was the only way to connect with other people.
There's something completely unique about the Austin Access experience that I don't know if everyone fully, realizes that. There's this force out there that thinks everything should be privatized, and if it's not making money, it has no value. That's the real bugaboo. Like, who watches this and what does it? It's like, well, who cares? That's not the point.
And when they say that the internet, is going to supersede it, or YouTube or all that, it's never going to happen because it doesn't provide what the day-to-day participation of the melding of the community in a place where they can fight together and they can learn together and they can progress together.
So you could be very topical. You could talk about things that were important in your community. You could address the community directly.
It's not quantifiable. It's not about selling ad space. There's not enough elements of our life that are divorced from commerciality. As it is, I think it's very important to have that for our collective soul, actually.
We choose to go to the road and discontinue and do the other thing.
It was a time of a lot of discontent in the United States with the war in Vietnam. People wanted their voices heard.
We were in the Vietnam era and we wanted the information to come from the bottom up. Some of the subjects we wanted to cover weren't really understood by the corporate segment. They thought no one would watch it because they didn't really understand if it didn't have a commercial attached to it, and it didn't have a laugh track, and it didn't have a storyline that everybody had already seen 100,000 times.
3, 2, 1 and cue.
For me, that was the beginning of that seed of inspiration that what is being produced by the mass media is not the only version of the stories that we're experiencing that are out there.
And there wasn't any way an average person could get on a television station in the late 1960s, early 1970s.
TV was always thought of as something for those professionals over there. We haven't traditionally thought about using TV as a tool for the average person to use.
George Stoney and others brought some equipment by the FCC.
He grabbed the camera and he said, "Oh, look groovy, look what I can do."
Yeah. Hey, wow, that's really freaky, man. Hey, I really like this thing.
In 1969, I saw the first Porta-Pack at a Rolling Stone show in London. As soon as I saw the Porta-Pack, I thought, aha, television can be made by anyone.
So you had the need for expression, now you had the necessary equipment to make it, and the third element was, how do you distribute this?
It was the truest of collaborations when a group of University of Texas radio, television, and film students joined forces with the co-founders of the Armadillo World Headquarters to create Austin Community Television, ACTV.
Myself and various ones who were into media production, I started looking at the rules, looking at Austin to see whether or not we could get a channel.
Cable TV in 1972 was 6.5 million homes. It was not in many cities at all, and the cities it was in was basically because there was reception problems from skyscrapers or whatever.
And I think around that same time, other people were beginning to think the same thing. I mean, the word was getting out, and a group on the University of Texas campus were beginning to study cable television and realizing the same thing.
I was a radio, television, film undergraduate at UT. One of my teaching assistants, Anita Benda, grabbed me and about 4 or 5 other students and said, "Okay, this is what we're going to do."
And those students asked their instructors if they could actually create a class about public access. And they did.
It was very exciting because it was just the very beginnings of community access television.
Once we realized that we could get access to the cable system, it just fit together perfectly. I mean, we were the capital of the state. We have a lot of writers here. We have a lot of people that are involved in creating media and creating content. So it was just unnatural to think that public access would do well in Austin.
ACTV was an incubator for people with the desire to make television programming.
It's a great place to start. It's a great place to produce, depending on what your goals are. Robert Rodriguez and a lot of people I knew, it was a evolutionary step in what we were doing.
And we were struggling to get our hands on a porta-pack. And to come in here and to find all these facilities, the studio, and all the equipment, it's come a long ways. So it's pretty amazing.
People with their own projects, everyone's so accommodating and cooperative. I'll always have a super warm place in my my heart for my years at Access.
Whether it's called Austin Community Television or PAC TV, it really doesn't matter what it's called. It's the fact that people are able to come in, get some equipment, put their idea on tape, no matter how clumsily or how expertly, what perspective they have. The fact that that still goes on is amazing to me. I think it's a wonderful testament to Austin.
There's almost something very intimate about being able to communicate on a local level, on a very community level. Kind of finding your chops and finding your voice and finding what's important to you, and it's going to be important to other people because they're in your community.